The next program is to write a script to open any 5 websites including Google in Internet Explorer, and we have to close all the browsers after we open it except Google using descriptive programming. So the approach would be, first of all, you know how to open 5 websites. We can open any 5 websites of your choice including Google, and after that we'll use child objects. Okay, since we have 5 objects of similar type, that is we all belonging to the same class browser. So to distinguish between the 5 browsers, we can use child objects, which will help us to distinguish between the different browsers. And child objects is a concept in descriptive programming, so we can use it since it is mentioned that we have to use descriptive programming. And then after that, we can use the property, the name of the website, in order to find the browser which we don't have to close, that is Google, which we don't have to close. Okay, to begin with, we use the code systemutil.run to open the websites. So I'm opening the 5 websites. The parameters for systemutil.run, the first is iExplore, since we're opening it in Internet Explorer, and the second parameter is the website which you want to open. So I'm opening 5 random websites including google.com. After opening this, I have to close all of this using QTP except for Google. So as I said, for QTP to distinguish between these 5 browsers, we need to find the child objects, because if you remember the concept of child objects is used in a page which are having child belonging to the same class. So in order to distinguish between them, we use child objects, and once the child object is created, we can use index to indicate each of them. But let's see how we do it. Okay, so the first thing is to create the child object. So we use set and we create an object. So let's say object name is set object equal to description dot create. So this is the code which you need to remember. This is the code to create an object. So first of all, I'm creating an object with the name obj. Okay, and in obj I'll put the class value property. So let's say my class. Now you know that for the browser, the my class is in browser. So if I use object spy, if I point it to the browser, you will see the class name is browser, and as I told you, for class name we use my class. So let's write this property equal to, in double quotes, browser. Okay, so this object now will have all the objects which are belonging to the class browser. So since we are opening the 5 objects belonging to the class browser, all this will belong to this object. Now the next thing that you know is we have to find the parent. Okay, now since this class, the browser, opens on desktop, the desktop is the parent, right? If you see, browser is at the highest level, and before browser the parent is desktop. So simply write desktop dot child objects. Okay, and inside the child object you have to give the name of the object, that is obj. So this is what this will do is it will point to all the objects which are in the desktop belonging to the class browser. So we have 5 objects currently. Now we can use the index property to find each of them. So once we find, we'll use the ordinal identifier to identify the website name. Okay, so before moving to that, the one thing which is we have to keep in mind is we have to compare the ordinal identifier of each of them with google.com, because google.com is the site which we don't want to close. So for comparing each and every value, we'll use a for loop. Okay, so for, now if we start with the index, okay, let's say I'm using I. Okay, for I equal to, now we need to know the count of this child objects. Okay, then only we can use the for loop. Since, okay, so we directly won't take 5 because it will be hard coded. So what we'll do is we'll use obj dot, can use this code, desktop child object dot count. So this will give the number of child objects in my desktop. I'll put it in my variable iCount. Okay, so we'll start with I equal to 0 to iCount. So iCount in our case will be 5. Sorry, so we'll start with I equal to 0 to iCount minus 1. Okay, since the child object index, that is wherein we'll put our I, will start with 0 and it will go till 4 for 5 objects from 0 to 4. So we have to write iCount minus 1. I have added the wait statement because we'll let QTP to synchronize till all the websites open. So it will take some time for all of them to open. So we give a wait of 10 seconds. Let's reduce it to say 5 seconds. Okay. Now from my child objects, I got the count number of browsers which are open. So when 5 browsers will be open, this count will be 5. And it will run from 0 to 5 minus 1, that is 4. Now what we have to do is we have to use the ordinal identifier. Now if you remember, every object has a mandatory identifier, mandatory properties, assistive properties, and third is ordinal identifier. So if QTP is not able to recognize the object based on assistive properties, as in our case 5 browsers are same, so QTP won't be able to recognize the object using mandatory and assistive properties. So we'll use ordinal identifier, that is the browser creation time. Now ordinal identifier, if you remember, the browser creation time is applicable only for browsers and not for any other object. So creation time is the ordinal identifier which we'll be using. Now there are two approaches for this. First is the browser creation time. If you know, we have done this before, in ordinal identifier, browser creation time, the creation time is which is assigned to the browser. It will start with 1 and go till the number of browsers. So suppose I'm opening the first browser and suppose Google opens first, so creation time 1 will be assigned to it, and the second browser which opens, say for example, suppose Gmail opens or any of the browsers, so the second browser will be assigned number 2. So it will go from 1 to 5. So we'll put 1 to 5 for this first approach. Okay. So for I equal to 1 to iCount, we have to use, so browser, as you know, sorry, the creation time, as you know, is the property and its value will be from 1 to 5. So property value pair, as you know, we can use in descriptive mode by using in double quotes. The property is my creation time and the value is the value which I will take from the for loop, the high. Okay, so this we have to close. And when do we close this? If my, now this is my object, right? Now when will I close it? I will take each and every browser and find the arrow property of it. Okay, so you'll come to know why. So if browser creation time dot get arrow property, okay,